There are some common frugality mistakes. These are really kind of misconceptions, but they could be leaving you really frustrated or even keeping you from reaching your financial goals.
Hi, I'm Larry.
And I'm Hope.
And we're from Under the Median, where every week we bring you videos on practical frugality.
There are some pitfalls in the frugal lifestyle. If you're not careful, you can unintentionally fall into them. They can become areas where you feel like you can't make any forward progress on your financial goals, and it could be because you just need to change your mindset and understand frugality a little bit differently. In this video, we'll talk about those areas. We'll also, along the way, give you some solutions if you find yourself kind of trapped in those areas.
The first pitfall, and I think this is really more of a misconception, is that you can't make big purchases and be frugal. Now, Hope and I have talked about this issue many times on our channel, and that is part of frugality is being able to save money that you're spending on small items so you can apply those toward larger purchases. I find this to be one of the major benefits to being frugal, and that's it. Since you're not eating up your money on a lot of unnecessary spending, you now have money to put toward higher quality, larger purchases that will last you a long time and serve you very well.
It all comes down to goals. Now, if you need some help with maybe cutting your expenses so you can reach those goals, then we have a free ebook that is called 10 Ways to Radically Reduce Your Expenses. It's a checklist. I go through each of the 10 ways that were major ways that we saved money when we were saving for a great big goal of paying cash for this house. Make sure you have access to that ebook. There'll be a link to it. It's free. Did I mention that? And the ebook will be listed in the description of this video.
Another pitfall is sometimes, and we could be guilty of this too, we compare ourselves to others. Another couple or another family is saving money in this particular area, and maybe we're not saving as much. Every family and every couple has different goals. You're in different areas in life. You live in different areas. So it might be that where you live, some of these prices aren't available to you that they are in other areas. So you really don't want to compare yourself to how another couple or family is doing. And I think really the best thing you can do is try to beat your own best record.
Yeah, who are you really competing against? Nobody.
Nobody.
You should be maybe competing against what you did last month. And we loved this because this helped us sort of gamify this whole thing of frugality. Well, how much did we spend last month on groceries? I'll bet between the two of us, we can figure out how to cut 5% back and then 5% the next month. That's a really healthy form of comparison.
But Mom, what about keeping up with the Joneses?
Daniel, that's a really, really great question. We assume that the Joneses are probably on their second or third mortgage and they're heavily in debt. All right, look, it depends on what the Joneses are doing. On the outside, they may look like they're doing really, really well, but you don't know what's going around behind the scenes. So never, ever just compare yourself to someone else who appears to be doing a whole lot better than you are. Pitfall number 3, we love this one. Being frugal means always buying the cheapest product.
And once again, we've addressed this issue many, many times. If you buy the cheapest product, what do you think is going to happen in the long run? Well, in the long run, a cheap product will probably not hold up as well to a more expensive, better made, better maintained product. So I think you want to look at what's the long haul in terms of owning this item over the long period that you're going to have it. What is it actually going to cost you?
You have to consider things like durability, reliability, long-lasting value. You have to also look at like what that product warranty is. Is this a company that's going to stand behind its product if something goes wrong with the product? We've had several times where we paid actually a premium price for a premium product. It broke. They replaced it. No questions asked. You have to look at that all the time. But being frugal definitely does not mean that you are constantly buying the item which is the cheapest.
Number 4 is neglecting the quality of life. I think sometimes we can be so, and I'm going to just use the word cheap. We can be so cheap that we're not giving ourselves a good quality of life with the money that we've saved. Remember, you're saving this money. You're being careful. You're not spending it recklessly, and you now have money to enjoy some things that will give you some I would call quality of life situations that you can share with each other in years to come.
So Larry and I had quite the conversation about this point. He worked really hard to get this point into this video
Yes.
because he had a little bit of a bone to pick with me. Because he said quality of life. We had recently met with our financial planner, John Creekmer. And John was looking at all the numbers and he said, so, is there anything missing from this list of like, your goals, things like that? And Larry chimes in and says,
we are missing some vacation, some time where we go out and we travel. We have some nice recreation. Yes, it will cost some money. And John looked at that very carefully.
He did. And then Larry was excited because he agreed with Larry. He actually asked Larry, looked at all of our numbers, and he said, Larry, how much money do you want to travel each year? And Larry gave him a figure, and John looked at me. He said, give the man the travel money. That is Larry's example. He was really excited to make it for y'all of quality of life. To him, that was really important that we set that money aside.
Yeah, and I think it's something that you'll talk about in later years, about what you did as a family, what you did as a couple. Those are very important things to be doing.
All right, problem number 5 is obsessing over small savings. Now, this is going to sound different because we've talked a lot on this channel about small amounts of money, saved in a lot of different areas, saved up over time, amounts to big amounts of money. It does. We're not talking about that.
Yeah.
We're talking about a scenario like you're at the grocery store. Happened to us today. I happen to know that a 3-pound bag of yellow onions was on sale across town. We were at Aldi's. Guys, you know what? We paid whatever Aldi's was charging for the yellow onions, which probably compared to other grocery stores, full price was not as much.
Yeah.
And the point is, could we have saved $1 driving across town? It's these little bits of money we're talking about, because you start obsessing. Oh my gosh, I can't buy the yellow onions here because they're on sale someplace else, and I really need to get in the car. I need to drive across town. I need to buy those yellow onions at Kroger because they're on sale at Kroger. You got to look at the big picture. For us, it was we were busy.
Yeah.
We had other errands to run.
Yeah.
We were only going grocery shopping once this week. We had our full grocery budget. We still didn't spend the full grocery budget, even buying the onions at full price. We didn't spend all of our grocery money.
No.
And by the time we drove across town, would we have essentially wasted that $1 in gas driving across town to Kroger? You have to take all those things into consideration and stop obsessing on, but I can't do this, because it winds up with something where you're keeping yourself awake at night going, that was a little bit, that was 50 cents. I shouldn't have spent that. Don't do that. However, having said that, we have talked a lot about grocery savings on this channel because it's the number one area that we hear about from people.
Yes,
is that they are frustrated with the rising cost of groceries, and they would really, really like to lower that grocery budget. And I bring this up because I wanted to let you guys know that, because I really, really want to lean into that and help you guys figure out this grocery game of a way that you can walk out of the grocery store every week with more bags of groceries instead of fewer bags, having consistently paid less money at the checkout. I am taking $10 off of our grocery super savings bundle. Now, this is only good for 3 days through Sunday night at midnight. I'm going to make sure, guys, that there's a special link in the description of this video where you can check it out. That grocery super savings bundle is a bundle of 5 ebooks, and I give you all the information that you need to know in order to spend less on your grocery bill. We just had an Under the Median viewer that wrote and said, thank you. I'm doing everything that you are teaching me to do, and I've cut my grocery bills in half consistently for 4 months in a row.
That's
and
good.
I'm really looking to lower it even a little bit more in month number 5. So the grocery super savings bundle, guys, I'll make sure it's in the description.
The next area that we're going to talk about is equating frugality with deprivation. And we've also mentioned this before as well. Frugality is not deprivation. It's not just saying no, 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 and constantly depriving yourself of things that you can have that will make your life enjoyable and give you things that you really need. What it is, it's a matter of sorting through some things that you don't need to buy in order to save up that money for things that you do want, that you want to put into your life that will add a substantial quality of life to you.
When people bring this up to us, we always counter with this kind of our word picture that frugality is not staying in your house, eating ramen every single night for dinner, and living like a hermit because you are afraid to leave your house because if you do, you might actually have to spend some money. That is not frugality. It is not equal to deprivation. Problem number 7, I have a visual aid. Not knowing when you should replace something. Here is my visual aid. I'm going to stretch it out. This is Larry's belt.
She just got this visual aid yesterday.
Do you see it's in 2 pieces? This belt is 21 years old. Larry has worn it almost every day for 21 years. He put it on. The thing broke in half. And I held the 2 pieces up and I said, Larry, I think it's okay to replace the belt. You gotta know when to replace things, even if you're frugal.
The other thing you got to know is that was my favorite belt.
Clearly, it was your favorite belt.
I didn't want to replace it. I love that belt. So yeah, it does come down to a point where that was a surprise. It just broke, and I didn't even know it was going to break.
There is no amount of glue, guys, that is going to
No.
Epoxy, no. Nothing is going to fix this belt.
No, the belt's very worn out in every area, so it needs to be replaced. 21 years is a good amount out of a belt, though. I mean, that's a belt I've worn almost every day. So it's not just a belt I wear once in a while. That's my everyday belt that I put on. So
You got to tell us in the comments section if you track really random things like this. What is the most number of years you've gotten out of a good leather belt? Tell us. Larry's at 21 right now. We'll see if someone can break his record. Problem number 8 is the problem of ignoring the value of time. That's one of those things we sort of alluded to when we were talking about the grocery store run and the fact that we really, and the onions.
Yeah.
He keeps bringing the onions. The fact that we had other things to do. We had other things on our agenda. There is a certain amount of value in your time.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's okay to pay for something that, yes, you could do yourself. Let's use bread as an example. I baked bread for years and years. I haven't done it recently, but I do sometimes bake bread because it is less expensive than the store-bought bread. But there's a value in the amount of time that I would spend making the bread. You always have to keep that in balance. And that really is what this video is about helping keep balance.
Number 9 is solely focusing on cutting your expenses. Now, let me just say, it's a good thing to do. There's nothing wrong with cutting your expenses. If you can look at an item and you can cut it down a little bit, that's great. In fact, we talk about our 10% challenge that we do every so often, and that's a good example of cutting our expenses. But it can get to a point where you saturate amounts that you can cut off, and you've cut everything that you can, and it gets to the point where you just have to say, we've done all we can do in this area, let's move on to something else to work on.
Here's the big problem with solely focusing on cutting expenses. A lot of people think that they can dig themselves out of a hole of debt by simply cutting expenses. Sometimes you can, but the truth is, if you supplement your income, you'll get there a whole lot faster. Sometimes that little side hustle or the overtime or taking the second job will get you to where you want to go faster than sitting at home thinking, I just can't make it because I can't cut anymore. But the truth is, if you obsess on the fact that I can't do this because I can't cut any more expenses, then you've got to look at the other side of the coin, which is earning more money and bringing in more income.
Ultimately, it gets down to knowing what your goals are and having a plan to get there. Frugal people in general are pretty good about getting there. But if you haven't done this a lot and you need a little bit of guidance here, we've got a video that we just did recently on this subject, and it's right over there.